I'd like to call this county council meeting to order. At this time, I'm going to call on Ms. Mary Lynn Kinley for our invocation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess we're on. Would you all please bow in prayer? Beg your pardon? I can't. Is it on?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Would you please bow in prayer with me, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with gratefulness, with thankfulness for the many blessings in our lives that you give us from the time we got up this morning till we go to bed tonight. We thank you for another day. Dear Lord, I ask that you continue giving us your love, your grace, and your mercy. We need all of these to be able to live this life to the fullest. I ask that you bless every family here in this gym tonight, and that you know their needs before we even ask. I ask that you lift up any of the needs these families have, whatever it may be. Thank you again for all the blessings, some that we see, some we have no idea that you have blessed us with. And I ask that you bless all the citizens in Fairfield County. I ask that you put a peace on us that we can grow into the county we would all like to see us grow into. All these things I ask in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Kinley. This time I will receive a motion to approve minutes of regular meeting August 26th.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. The ayes have it. This time we're now going to public comment. Ms. Brown, first name, please.
Mr. Randy Bright would like to speak on taxes and efficiency.
Thank you. I don't see a 3-minute timer, but I'm confident the council will...
Mr. Bright, here's your 3-minute timer down this way. Right here.
Oh, just wave your hand or
Here we go.
yell or something, because I'll keep going on all night. It's been well documented and very well articulated by many of the individuals in this room that we have an excessive tax rate and we pay excessive tax dollars. This excessiveness is to the tune of, we're the third highest tax county in the entire state of South Carolina. On the additional side of it is that it's been well documented, well articulated by many in this room in previous meetings, that our expenditures, county expenditures, are double the amount of counties the same size as us, and the same amount as counties that are double our size. On the other side of the coin, we're not getting the services. It's been well articulated many a time, additionally, that our rankings are extremely low when compared to other counties in South Carolina. For example, an additional ranking that we discovered in doing research from the National Public Health Institute, which is it's a institute that is in concert with the University of Wisconsin and a philanthropic organization that deals with public health issues nationwide. It ranks us the bottom 30% in health factors in the entire state of South Carolina. These health factors vary in components from high unemployment to poor water quality to the worst recreational facilities in the state. Now, this is facilities, not counting lakes and natural things. This is what the government can do for us. So, we're paying a lot of taxes, we're paying a lot of money, we're spending a lot of money, and we're not getting anything for it. So what I would like to hear from our council going forward is keep in mind that these high taxes are robbing everyone in this room of their wealth, of their daily income, of their ability to spend money. They're robbing the wealth of your value of your home, robbing the wealth by discouraging businesses and future builders and future residents of this county because high taxes, poor services. Why would I want to come there? All of this boils down to, I would like to see an expectation as the boss, or one of the many bosses of our county government going forward. I would like to hear an update at each meeting. What are we doing to work our taxes down and raise our services? Nothing new here. Every government except ours, it seems like, in the state and in the nation, is doing more with less. They're finding a way to do it, but we're spending more and getting less. So I would like to see an update. What operational efficiencies is our county government taking? What staffing structures is our county government taking? What are we looking at as far as assets? For example, do we have too many vehicles that we own and we have to maintain? Can we sell those off?
Mr. Bride, your 3 minutes has come to a close.
Taxes are too high, efficiencies are too low, and I expect updates, please, on what we're doing to ameliorate these situations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Betty Frazier, on the subject of transparency.
Following Randy on money. This is about following the money. And you can't hear me? Okay. About. Can you hear me now? There is a website, the Spending Transparency website with the State Controller's Office, Richard Ekstrom. And there's an article, there was an article in the News and Herald, the Herald Independent, and this was in May 24. Starts off, if you've ever wondered how your city or town or county council spends your hard-earned tax dollars, there's a powerful tool that's available at your fingertips. Using this tool, you can quickly and easily see which vendors your county council does business with, along with the amounts they're being paid, what they're providing, and other important details. Every South Carolina citizen ought to be provided this access. It's not magic, but it is powerful. Very easy. All you need is a computer with internet access. What can it do? What are the benefits? One is it applies the best incentive to ensure responsible government spending. It provides citizens with convenient access to information about spending their money, our money, and it eliminates the need for people to have to ask for it and tolerate long waits for officials to reply. Costly. Costly task of filling formal requests under our state's open records law. That would be the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. I think the number $800 comes to mind on fulfilling a recent act that we had. It sets up easily, and it can be done by the Controller's Office, and they can even provide financial support. I don't think we need that. Who's doing it? Counties, Berkeley, Charleston, Edgefield, Greenville, Horry, Kershaw, Richland, Spartanburg. I think Fairfield County would look very, very nice on that list. That you would be in some excellent company. Cities that are doing it: Charleston, Columbia, Greenville, Myrtle Beach, Rock Hill. I would love to see this implemented in 30 to 60 days. I mean, we have been going through your checkbook, your check register. Is that it?
Yes, ma'am, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jeff Morris, on the subject of council focus.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, I'm a new resident in the county, and I wrote down council focus because I'm afraid the council's attempts to address the issues in the county are being drawn in a variety of areas. And an example would be the discussion we're going to have this evening about the flow control legislation, which showed up on an agenda last time completely unidentified, simply as somebody who was coming in to make a presentation, no indication what it was about. And a person who's interested in how the county runs couldn't possibly know what's going on just by reading the agenda. Ironically, that's what an agenda's for, but the agenda failed miserably in that. More importantly, though, I think the topic that was selected is one that is relatively low in priority compared to what is going on in the county currently. The issues in the county are about revenue and expenditures. There are some other issues, and I'm new, I'm not worried about those, frankly, but revenue and expenditures are the real issues. In particular, the issues about the local option sales tax, which I think arguably the county is in willful violation of South Carolina Code Section 41040B. And I think that it needs to be addressed and addressed quickly. The other thing that's out there, and I don't know much about it, but I hear people say there is a very substantial amount of revenue coming in the relatively short term from the VC summer plant. I don't hear much about the plans for that money, but it strikes me that it would be sensible to have plans in place, particularly as it seems likely that other entities in South Carolina, cities and counties, might be a tad jealous of that revenue and very eager to share in that revenue. By analogy, I'd point to 41060, just a couple of sections down below the other section, which talks about how the local option sales tax is itself distributed among municipalities within a county. Now, it's not a perfect analogy, but I think it's apt in the sense of showing that when a number comes in, when revenue comes in, people have needs and they're going to reach out to grab as much of that as they can. I think it's very likely that the other constituencies in South Carolina might do that, and I would hope the council is thinking now about how are we going to address that to make sure that while you can't guarantee what happens in Columbia, you can at least be in a position to make the strongest case possible to protect the revenues, given especially the fact that in Myrtle Beach they won't be nearly as worried about an issue at the summer plant as people located much closer to it. So while certainly I hope there is already in place appropriate action to protect the people, I'd hope that even more so we're thinking about protecting those revenues. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jeff Schaefer, on the subject of old news.
Good evening. Can you hear me? No. No. Don't start that clock till they can hear me. Okay. There's a common consensus that we can solve our problems by throwing money at them. And to that end, you folks have spent or thrown $26 million in the last 6 months. And what do the taxpayers have to show for that kind of money and problem solving? Not much that I can see. Sometimes you have to make a sacrifice if you want to save a tree. When you see the major limbs are diseased, you cut them off. And you may have to cut off some other good limbs to preserve that tree. We cut off hindly. Want to take a guess who's next? Do you actually think that the kind of leadership we've been seeing will get you, or any of you, reelected? If we're learning anything from history, it is for us to make sure certain events and people do not repeat themselves. We're all judged and rewarded by our abilities. Now, talk is cheap. We've been coming to the council meetings for months, requesting you pay attention and actually show some respect and the ability to lead. Instead, we witnessed you buffoons trying to make a motion simply to move the meetings out of the council chamber to accommodate a larger audience, which took 30 minutes, 3 different votes, 3 different amendments. You're on video. Watch yourself sometimes. I'm curious, why do we have to ask the questions? Can't you see the amount of people in this audience tonight? Don't you get it that these people are all interested in what's going on? Or should I say, not going on in these meetings? We are no longer asking you. I'm no longer asking you. I'm no longer begging. I'm telling you. We are demanding that you act in the best interest of the community. Since you obviously don't know what the right thing to do is, I'm going to tell you. Get that building out of storage this week. Blow the dust off it. And get your maintenance department and the engineers and your road crews out and clear that 8.12 acres and erect the building. That is the right thing for you to do. And now let me tell you the smart thing to do. Move the recycling dump 3/4 of a mile to the same location. In addition, arrange for the police substation to be built there. And finally, probably most importantly, you'll need to build a shelter suitable to hold hundreds of people in an emergency, obviously relative to the nuclear plant. And while we doubt seriously we'll never need it, we want that security. There are still tornadoes and other disasters that strike. 90% of the homes are single-wide trailers, 20 years old. Do you want to be in one of them when disaster strikes? I didn't need 3 minutes, and you don't need 2 seconds to agree with the right thing. You either know it, and you will do it, or you don't. It's that simple. Either way, pack your bags. You folks are finished here.
We will not have an audience clap. These are presentations. This is a county council meeting, and it will be held as such.
Mr. Bob Harrison, on the subject of return of funds.
Can y'all hear me? I have to tell you first, before I delve into my subject, how heartened I am by the fact to see all of you here. The message is clear to me that the citizens of Fairfield County haven't had enough mismanagement. We have had enough, and we are not going to go away until some remedies are done on behalf of this council. The first one that I'd like to discuss, at the last council meeting, I offered up an agreement for the 3 council members who had inappropriately taken funds for cash in lieu of insurance and for school expenses. Rumor has it that you have agreed to repay those funds. That's what scuttlebutt is on the street. But we have no confirmation of that fact. I would like for you to please take the opportunity tonight to say that you have reached an agreement, to give us the terms of those agreements, and if so, then we can go away happy knowing that you have done the right thing. You can go away happy knowing that you have done the right thing, and that the interests of Fairfield County will have been served by your actions. We expect no less. We really want to see the right thing done on behalf of this council. It would be a good first step, and I highly recommend that you take it. Thank you.
Mr. Vernon Pilot, on the subject of respect.
Council, to get this right here. Council has heard repeated requests from many constituents for information and answers pertaining to problems associated with the governing of Fairfield County, i.e. the spending of our tax dollars. For some reason, known only to them, they refuse to address these problems. To quote the council chairperson, we need to make sure all constituents' wishes are followed.
That's exactly what we want to happen. Tell us. Lost, L-O-S-T. What's the current status? Do we have the check from the state for the current year? We know you have the information for all previous years. Give us the information. We really want to know. Medical payments to Ferguson, Trapp, and Kendall. What do each of you propose to do to deal with the problem? Will you repay to the county what was taken improperly? If so, explain to your constituents how and when this will take place. If not, give us your rationale. We truly want to know. Education benefits to Mr. Trapp. How do you propose to resolve his debt? I understand he's not here, but he knows what the problem is. Lawyers' fees paid by the county for Mr. Heinley's personal problems, not county business. That total was just over $12,000 of our tax dollars. Beyond that, the county paid for the former administrator's personal apology ad in the newspaper. Why would we spend taxpayer dollars for personal expenses incurred by our former administrator? Someone gave the okay to do this. I want to know who that person is. I want them to make me understand. The bottom line is the waste of taxpayer dollars by council. We need informational responses from council by addressing public complaints with solutions. If you cannot do that, we don't need you. If this were a private business you guys are running, you would have been fired and business would be in bankruptcy. Please tell us what you know.
Thank you, Mr. Clyde McFadden, on the subject of council.
I didn't come out here to really discuss council per se. It's just, I came out to talk about, I'm from southeastern Fairfield, Lake Wateree. I was born and raised here. I went to school here in Fairfield County, graduated Winsboro High School. So I'm not some kind of transplant lives out there. I pay really high taxes. I do not have adequate fire or EMS protection. But I see that you guys are spending $500,000 on recreation. I don't have adequate emergency protection, and we're going to spend money on recreation. What's going on with that? We don't have a good ISO rating where I'm at. You're lucky if the fire department shows up sometimes. Your house is usually on the ground when they show up. EMS is usually making calls at the Fairfield Manor or Fairfield Nursing Home instead of being at our house. They're like a transport service for them. I've been working with a grassroots organization in our area. We've got 5 acres of land donated at the chapel at Lake Wateree. I donated an acre myself. I gave it to my county councilman, the letter of intent. We want better emergency services, and we're willing to work and do whatever it does to take that, to make that happen. I don't think it's fair that we're going to spend $500,000 in my district on recreation and I have inadequate emergency services. I can't call an ambulance and expect it to be there within a 15-minute time frame if my wife's having a heart attack. We've got a rescue squad that's got boats sitting up here in Winsboro, and there ain't no lake in Winsboro. But there ain't one boat at Lake Wateree. It needs to be sitting on the lake ready for EMS to jump in it and go help somebody. Our emergency services are in really bad shape. I've even discussed this with Tony Hill. We really need help in that area and not our recreation. It really hurts me to know that as much money as I pay in taxes, all I have is a nice place to go dump my trash. That's really, really sad. And I really, really hope you guys do something with our emergency services. And I'm sure it's not just my area of the county. I'm sure there's other areas of the county that need that up before they need a swing set for a bunch of kids to play on.
Thank you. Ms. Beth Jenkins on the subject of funds and spending.
I also had a couple other items I wanted to cover, and of course, first and foremost, Mr. Ferguson, we beg of you to resign. You are not working for the county. You do not have a vision. I would also like to ask every council member here to take a vote of no confidence, which is your right as council members to vote Mr. Ferguson out. Represent your districts, care about the county, not just the money going in your pockets. We are tired of it. We need answers. The other thing I want to talk about is the annual allocations, which I tried to speak with via email to everyone here. And I got an excuse that they're looking at it, the administration and legal department are looking at these annual allocations. Each one of these persons gets $795 a month. They don't show a receipt one. That has to stop. And like the gentleman said, if this were a business, they'd have all been fired a long time ago. They wouldn't have made it through a probationary period. I also want to talk about linkages. It gets old, us asking questions and you receiving. When is something going to come back to us? Even words, answers. When is the linkage going to go the other way? The roads go both ways. We need answers. Respect us enough to give us answers to our questions. We're not asking for astronomical things. We're asking for respect. We're asking for answers. We're asking for you to do your jobs and stop taking our money.
Thank you, Mr. Bill Haslett, on the subject of helping kids.
Well, I feel like the Lone Ranger helping kids. Is Mr. Adams here? Mr. Adams? Yes, he's not. I do feel like the Lone Ranger up here. I've had my say with taxes. I think all of you know how I stand on taxes. Anyway, I've gotten a call and a visit from Leonard Adams, and he says he's got a real concern here in Fairfield County concerning kids. A lot of kids on the street are falling through the cracks. We have a fairly good recreational program here in town of Winsboro. However, there are a lot of kids that don't have the money to get into this program. He has gone about in getting a very serious grant for this county to help the underprivileged kids. And what his vision is his mission statement is to saving our underprivileged juveniles, adolescents, and implementing a 5A program. The 5A program goes something like this: attitude, attendance, academics, accountability, and achievements. He's going to work on after-school tutoring, prevention and innovation, gang awareness, role models, drug awareness, community relations, counseling on teen pregnancy, recreation, mentoring and fellowship, and on-the-job training. I'm working right now to try to get a program called Youth Build to get a lot of the people off the streets. Between 3 and 6 o'clock at night, folks, we got problems. Where our kids go? Got no place for them to go. We hope to have buses available. We want to teach these kids a trade so they can stay in the county, move this county forward. And I agree with everybody that's talking up here about the taxes. We could be the most dynamic county in Fairfield County in the state of South Carolina if we'll get our taxes right. Thank you.
We now have a public presentation from Senator Craig Coleman on flood control legislation.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak to y'all tonight on this issue. Last time we met, it was some information. My friend, Mr. Rhodes back here, was sort of bashing me, but now I feel like Paul Harvey. I want to tell you the rest of the news. And I'm going to do it a little differently than what Mr. Rhodes did. I'm going to hand y'all some handouts, and they're going to have the bill itself so y'all can read it, and you can determine yourself what the bill says, and not just a bunch of PowerPoint presentations. But let me tell you how we got to where we are right now with flow control. And I tell you, since I've been in the legislature, and I want to introduce my friend Otis Raw. Otis, raise your hand if you would. Otis is here, and Otis is the head. He is CEO and president of the South Carolina Chamber of Commerce. They are in favor of this bill just like I am. Otis is here to give support for this legislation, and he may want to say some few words about it later on. Let me tell y'all how we got to where we are, and I call it flow control. It's about controlling the flow of waste. And this is interesting. It's a young man, his name is William Clyburn. William is from Kershaw, the city of Kershaw. Not Kershaw County, but the city of Kershaw. William is probably 45, and he's a hustler, makes money, does very well. He went down to Horry County and determined that Horry County needed a place to take its waste. So he went across, he looked all around Horry County, he looked over in Marion County, which is the adjoining county, and bought some land over there, created a dump, and then he bought millions of dollars worth of trucks to haul the trash to his new dump in Marion County. Things were going good for 3 or 4 years, and then Horry County Council said, hey, he's making plenty of money. We need to get into this game, so Horry County, on their own volition, created the Horry County Solid Waste Authority. They went into the dumping business themselves. Then they mandated that if anybody in Horry County takes their waste to outside the county or to anybody else, they're going to be fined. And if you have 4 fines, they're going to take your license from doing business in that county. That's what they did. It doesn't matter that you can take it over to William Clyburn's dump over in Marion County and dispose of it a lot cheaper than Horry County's dump. They're mandated. What does that sound like to y'all? Sound like Germany during Hitler to me. Now I'm going to hand out a couple different things. Let me go get. Now, let me just say this. The Association of Counties that made the presentation to the county last time, you have to think about where you're getting this information from. They're called the Association of Counties. You know how they get their money? From the counties. All 46 counties pay a fund, monies to get into the Association of Counties, and that's what their job is, to look out for the county's interest. So that's what they're doing. They're doing what Horry County wants them to do. Now, the handouts that I handed out to y'all, the first document is from the South Carolina Business Roundtable. And it's signed by Otis, right here, Louis Gossett, who is President and CEO of the South Carolina Manufacturers Alliance, Leslie B. Hope, Director of Government Relations, Carolina AGC, Ben Homemeyer, State Director of the National Federation of Independent Businesses, and Lisa McGill Swetland, Government Relations Director, South Carolina Retail Association. So the business community is for this legislation. And I'm going to talk about the legislation right now in a minute. The second page, as you see, is just a summary of what the bill says. The third document is the House bill. It passed the House, and you read the bill, and The language that is not underlined is the language that passed the House. The language that is underlined are amendments that was made in the Medical Affairs Committee in the Senate. So, y'all take this and y'all read it yourselves, and you can determine what it says. Carla, let's get the slideshow going if you don't mind. Flow control is exactly what it says it is. Flow control is an ordinance enacted by a local government, often a county, which requires residents and businesses within its jurisdiction to send their solid waste to a government-owned facility for processing, treatment, or disposal, just like I said, just like what Horry County did, mandating that all businesses, all local people, all citizens take their trash to Horry County's facility. All right. Now, what does H 3290 do? That's the House bill number. H 3290 amends the Solid Waste Act and another provision of state law to make clear that flow control ordinances are inconsistent with state law and are therefore unlawful. South Carolina has its own Solid Waste Act, and believe it or not, every county in the county has its own zoning and its own waste ordinances, so they can still control it. Much of the language of 3290 is aimed at clarifying what the bill doesn't do, such as impacting existing bonds or affects counties' ability to enact zoning ordinances or solid waste user fee ordinances. Okay? What is the status of H 3290? 3290 was introduced by Kenny Bingham, who was a Republican from Chairman of Ways and Means over on the House side from Lexington, on January 10, 2013, with 45 co-sponsors. It passed the House on January 30th by a vote of 89 to 28, favorably reported to the Senate Medical Affairs Committee on April 11th, the second pending second reading on the Senate contested calendar. Okay. Why are businesses concerned? It creates government-owned monopolies that can charge above market rates without fear or competition. Prohibits businesses from controlling their own contractual relationships, including cost and liability issues. Can be used by counties as a revenue-raising measure, which is exactly what Horry County did. Okay? Unfair to competitors in the waste industry, particularly small companies, because counties can force competitors out of the marketplace. It can be both market competitor and market regulator. So that's what I'm saying with Horry County. What they would do, they created their own facility, and they are the ones that are policing whether or not people comply with their own ordinance. Small businesses fear unfair enforcement and possible reprisals. Horry County, in their ordinance, they said that if you violate this ordinance, if you don't take your trash to our facility, if you take it across Marion County to William Clyburn's dump or another dump, we're going to fine you. And if you get 4 fines, we're going to take your license, so you can't do that type of business anymore. Other counties are now considering flow control ordinance similar to Horry County's ordinance. It's interesting, I've got some articles that were in the Greenwood Index, I think is the name of the paper. Their county council is this close to passing flow control until the business entities in Greenwood County realized what was happening. They got on the bandwagon and now they've slowed. But they're thinking about it, and also Georgetown County's thinking about it. Who are the proponents of H 3290? The National Solid Waste Management Association, the State Chamber, Odie and his crowd, the South Carolina Manufacturers Alliance, Carolina's Associated General Contractors, the South Carolina Retail Association, and the National Federation of Independent Businesses. All right, Paul. Has the business community made efforts to compromise? We have tried and tried and tried and tried. The bill was amended on the House floor to respond to county's concerns regarding alleged impacts on bonds, zoning ordinances, solid waste user fees ordinances, and ordinances prohibiting out-of-county waste in county-owned facilities. It was amended again in the Senate Medical Affairs Committee to make the House changes more explicit and to further refine the bond language to protect Three Rivers Solid Waste Authority. During the negotiations at the end of the session, there was an offer to the counties. You know, you think about it, there are various, I know I'm kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, there are various kinds of waste. You got class 3, 2, and 1. Residential, we tried to say, okay, counties, y'all flow control residential, you know, you can't flow control industrial, C and D. They did not go along with that. And the compromise has been ineffective at this time. And where are we now, Paul? 2014 legislative session convenes Tuesday, January 14th. H 3290 will carry forward in its present position on the Senate calendar. Will be the 5th consecutive session that an anti-flow control bill is pending, and it will need to be set by special order. Special order is hard. It takes, I think, 3/5 to get it on special order. It's time to reach a fair assessment. And let me say this, if you read the bill, this is my language that I put in here, and it's underlined. And it says very specifically in here, let me find it. On page 2 and page 3, and it says very specifically in here, number 1 and number 2, that this bill does not affect a county's ability to be able to zone and maintain their zoning. And also, is authorizing a facility owned by a local government to refuse to accept solid waste or recovered materials generated outside the geographic boundaries of that local government. So they're protected in this bill. They can continue doing what they want to do. Now, this is what's interesting. During this process, the county's defense, and they've got everybody all up in arms. They say that this bill allows out-of-state waste to come into South Carolina, which is not true. It's a red herring, and it gets people's emotions going. And let me say this. I wrote to DHEC back in April sometime, and I asked them that question. I knew the answer, but I wanted it in writing. I wanted DHEC to say they were supposed to be here, but I think DHEC has had a tough time with the TB scare up in Greenwood County. They didn't want to get into a political hot potato here in Fairfield County. But this is from Jonathan Yarborough, who was Director of External Affairs. And this is what it says. I am writing in response to your letter dated April 18, 2013. Generally speaking, the Department of Health and Environmental Control views H 3290 as a bill that intends to work out an economic issue rather than one with environmental implications. We have made this view clear to the interests of both sides of the issue. Then, second paragraph, this bill does not affect any legal requirements with regard to out-of-state waste. We have thoroughly reviewed the language of this bill and see no basis for reaching such a conclusion. Nor does a bill change the requirement of the Solid Waste Management Act that requires a waste facility to be consistent with a county's local solid waste management plan. Finally, this bill does not affect current environmental laws and regulations other than adding the requirement that solid waste processing facilities register, report volume, and prove financial responsibility to the department. So it's a good bill. The other issue that the counties are saying that it's a violation of home rule. As you know, home rule was enacted in the early, I think it was in the 70s by the legislature. The legislature gave the counties the authority that it has. But the legislature retained the ability to be able to change it if they thought the counties were doing something they shouldn't be doing. The counties, In my opinion, and a lot of the people in Columbia, the counties are violating the state constitution as well as the laws of the state of South Carolina by doing what they're doing. Mandating that in community take their trash to their own facility. It's not right. That's what America was made of. It's not right, it's not fair. In closing, I will say, I've talked to county council members in Richland County, Chester County, Newberry County, York County, and if you talk to some of the county council members that study the issue, they see what the association is doing. They see that it's a red herring, that it doesn't have anything to do with out-of-state waste or home rule. And I hope this council does that too. I hope they study the issue. Now, Otis, do you want to say anything?
Craig, I just want to say thank you, Craig, for having an open mind about this entire issue. And for us, it's about choice. And it's any business that operates is about choice and how they run their particular business. And anytime you create government monopolies, it can't be done as good as private does it themselves. We've heard a little bit today from previous speakers about growing government. This is another example of government growing where businesses can step in, whether you're the public or whether you make waste management. Businesses use those types of folks every day to handle our waste. It's not about, as Creighton said, waste coming in from out of state. It's all about choices for businesses being able to find the best, most economical way for them to dispose of their waste in a manner that's required by DHEC with all the safety issues that are in place. And all we're asking for is, as businesses, let us make our choices as normal businesses can do. Keep government out of things that businesses do real well. This is one of the things that businesses do really well. So we thank you for the support of Creighton. We'd like you to keep the message going here in Fairfield County that let businesses choose, just like you choose every day where you buy your groceries, where you buy your gas. Let us be able to decide where we send our construction material, our demolition material, or our normal garbage, where it's the most economical way for us to dispose of it in an environmentally safe way. Thank you.
Thank you, Otis, and we'll hang around if anybody has any questions afterwards. Thank y'all so much.
At this time, we'll move now to our county administrative report. Pope.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, council and citizens of Fairfield. The only item under my report is an update on purchasing and developing approximately 1 acre of real property to be used as a recreational mini park. This was an item that the county council had placed on the agenda up to second reading. The council decided to defer this item. There was information that was provided at the last citizens input session. There could be the possibility of land that may be donated or provided to the county. I am waiting on that information. I have not received any information as of today. However, we also communicated with Councilmember Trapp on this item, and he expects to move forward with the council on this item at our next regular scheduled meeting, which is the 23rd, which the item will be brought up for third reading. Mr. Chairman and council, that completes my report.
Okay. We're now in county council time. There's a few things that I'd like to say. One is we will have a work session on recreation. Also, we have a proposal from Christ Central Ministries on the old voter registration building. We have a proposal, council, if you look in your manila folder, you have a proposal that was brought in by Mr. Brown tonight, very self-explanatory. This will be the first item on our agenda on next Wednesday night, which is, give me a date, Mr. Brown. It's the 18th. Wednesday the 18th. 6 o'clock at the council chambers. We will be having a work session on this. Once we get dispensed with this, we will bring a vote forward on the following, on the regular council meeting night. Mr. Brown brought this a week in advance, so we'll have a chance to read over it. If you got any questions, you can call Mr. Brown. He is on this board, and he can answer any questions that you may have. One of the things that was that had come up previous about this was there was a kitchen to be installed in it. And I think Mr. Brown knows they've got that worked out. This was the group that came to us and was wanting to have a commercial kitchen available for folks in the county. And this is one of the things that's in it. You'll look in your packet there, you'll see there's a layout, and also there's a expression sheet that explains basically what the rooms are to be used for and that kind of stuff. So if you would take the time to read that and come up with whatever your questions or recommendations are on the 18th, that's the first thing we will endeavor to do on that work session night. The second item on that is we will have a work session on recreation. I'm asking that all the council members bring what you have proposed in your particular district so that we can discuss that. Mr. Pope will have his folks there to deal with it. Also, on that night, we will be discussing the manner in which we select recreation for each individual district. Meaning, will it be left up to the council representative from that district, or will it be left up to the entire council body? This is one of the things that we have not settled on. This is one of the reasons for the ongoing discussion, and this is the thing that has to be answered before we move forward from where we are. So after our work session on that next regular council meeting night, we will take a vote on how that is to be decided with the funding that came from the bond issues. And that's those two things will be brought forward. Like I said, Mr. Pope will have his folks there. Council members, if you have something in advance of that night, if you would see that either Mr. Pope or Ms. Brown receives a copy of it, it can be sent out to the other council members so they could have that information the night they come to discuss it. That would certainly be a plus. So if you could do that, and Mr. Pope, anything that your group needs to bring forward, if you would have that available also.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, just one thing,
okay,
just for clarification for the audience. The work session is the council work session to discuss exactly what you just mentioned. However, as far as the public information, once that information is discussed and council assumes a direction before any public vote, that will be placed in our packet for public distribution. So the citizens will have information, and of course I'm sure there will be questions and whatnot. So publicly, they will have information instead of feeling as though that they may not know what's going on with what's on the table at the time. So I assume that once the council discusses information, brings staff information that's put together in some type of report, then that information will be distributed publicly as we've tried to do in our recent reports, where there will be some type of council action request so that information will be for the view for the public.
Also, that particular night, I did not reference this, but on that particular night, no votes will be taken. It's just what it says it is. It's a work session. We will try to work through what each member's got proposed and that kind of stuff. We will also discuss the manner in which we will vote on it. And at our regular council meeting, our next scheduled council meeting, we will take a vote on how that is to be decided, and that will be the way this thing goes down as far as, is it going to be left up to the council member itself, or is it going to be left up to the session? Okay? Anything else for the good of council, Mr. Vice Chairman?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, one other thing I want to see if we can go ahead and get this on the agenda. I know we've been talking about the local option sales tax presentation for about a month now, and we've been invited to House Member Mary Gail Douglas's open house forum on the 16th. Our regularly scheduled meeting is on the 23rd, to see if we can't get that on the agenda so we can make that presentation to the citizens.
We have set a date for that, but we have not been able to ascertain. We were going to use the high school auditorium. We have not been able to get a clarification of that as of yet. Ms. Brown has been trying diligently over the last week trying to get some information back, but we don't have it as of yet. But just as soon as we get that clarified, we will be getting that information out. Mr. Pierre.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure we get it out enough time so and have an appropriate place where people will be able to attend and be a part of that presentation.
Okay. Anything else from council?
I'd like to address council for a second. I'm having trouble hearing. I know at the last council meeting, it was decided that in this council meeting, or these preceding council meeting, the venue for the following regular session council meeting would be made by motion and on a case-by-case basis. I don't know if I've heard that being done here yet tonight, and I'd like to know if we're going to, move it to a more appropriate venue. I think it's fairly obvious we can't all fit in council chambers.
Thank you so much. Mr. Marshall.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. When we meet for that work session, there are some materials. When you say each council member bring whatever material, there's a substantial amount of material that's involved with this building, with minutes from council, with other things we've had. There's been a analysis taken of the cost-effective analysis of the center. There are a lot of figures and numbers that I don't have. So how do I propose to argue for my constituency? I don't have that information. The county has that information. I would hope that the county would see fit that I get everything that I possibly need in reference to my district and the data and stuff that's associated with that. Because I wouldn't know how to present myself without all those figures and whatnot.
Mr. Pope, would you make yourself available to Mr. Masharia to give him anything that you or your staff may have, and also make sure that that goes out to the rest of the council, as well as anything else comes in from other council members, so we'll be ready on that night?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. One other question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Can we get a legal opinion from our attorney whether or not when you prioritize earmark the money from the old budget, the $500,000, then move to another area within the budget? I'd like a legal opinion on that, whether or not the council is supposed to vote on that, or you can just take that money, put it where you want and spend it, or do it come back for council for appropriation again?
Mr. Pope, have we got a legal opinion on this as of yet?
No, sir, not a legal opinion. However, from a financing situation, our CFO has provided that documentation. We can provide that to all of council, and we will discuss the matter with our county attorney as well to have that information or a response to that question at the work session.
Okay. If you could, Mr. Pope, if you could get an analysis from Mr. James prior to that, just as soon as you can, get it sent to Mr. Masharia and the rest of the council members, please. Anything else? Ms. Robinson.
This will not walk. We'll just do it this way. Can y'all hear me? Also, Mr. Pope, in that package, can you provide to us the newest executed documents that we have from SCANA or SCENG in regard to the 2 parks over on the western side of the county? So that we can have those to review as well at that time. Tonight, I hear that on the 18th, we're going to have a work session on recreation. There have been so many things on our plate that I have not been able to meet with District 2 for us to discuss recreation. District 2 spreads over 2/3 of this county, and there's so many specific needs in the county. Personally, I've said before and I'll say again, I think it's one of the worst mistakes this council that I've noticed them do is to put $3.5 million into recreation without a plan before you put that money in. And then to say that each district's going to have $500,000. I voted against all of that when the bond issue was coming down. Whenever Mr. McFadden spoke tonight, he had already relayed that information to me in an email as to his thoughts a few weeks ago. It is very difficult for me to discuss recreation, like I say, for District 2. I spoke with Mr. Pope about this last week. It really distresses me to think that I have to think, or this council has to think, of how we're going to provide recreation for District 2. I've asked Mr. Trout to discuss with me where he may be wanting to put and suggest to have mini parks so that I would see if that's going to serve any of the neighboring areas, because we're divided for most of our district by one highway. And it would be most helpful to see if those mini parks were going to solve a problem that we may have. Mr. McFadden, I'd like to ask that you head up a committee to get a meeting scheduled so that anybody in District 2 who would like to come and discuss this situation, please do that, if that's a possibility for you. At the same time, we do have problems over this county for EMS and also fire protection. As you know, all of the fire protection in this county is volunteers. One of the ways that the possibility is going to be solved is for more volunteers to come, because right now, believe it or not, this county and taxpayers don't have the money to be paying full-time staff to staff those to go every time there is a phone call. Also for Lake Wateree, and I realize Lake Wateree is a long distance down in mileage and the way the road turns, but at one time the only service they had was Southeastern EMS plus whatever was provided from Winsboro, and the closest response time you had was a minimum of 50 minutes to an hour. I don't know how long ago it was, probably 8 or 9 years ago. We were fortunate and finally succeeded in having an EMS station placed at 21, and I guess that's still called River Road at that point, at the flashing light. It now is the 3rd highest response EMS station in the county. So it has been able to provide a faster response time for people in that area, in Mitford, in Pea Ridge, and also for the interstate. So we're grateful for that. Believe it or not, with all the monies that we have in taxes, we all basically have the same services out there. The only thing I personally have is that I have to drive about 4 miles to go haul my trash off, and they saw me twice on Saturday. Everything else, I have the same service that everybody else does. But this recreation, like I say, is a tremendous concern of mine, and to think we're going to spend $500,000. So, anybody in District 2 have a suggestion, please email me or contact me so that we can start getting ideas. Thank you for your time. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to just make a few comments. It has been very difficult to sit for these last 2 or 3 months and to see the disrespect shown. And I feel like the last 17 years, we're glad to have folks come. I've always said government works better when the people are here. But you talk about that we've been disrespectful, but I think you have to respect the council with its seating, whether you like us or not. And I feel good with the decisions that I've made. I've listened, I've done my homework, and I've tried to make good decisions for this county, and I still will for the rest of my term. But I just wanted just a few comments. You keep asking, why don't we say? I talk to the people in my district. I hope that the other members are. Folks will come by, they will call me, I will meet with them and answer any questions they have. We are not being secretive. And I wish that you would call your reps and ask them to talk with you, because that communication is very, very, very important. And we all need to be on the same wavelength. We did decrease our budget 7% this year, which I thought was a really good decrease to start with. And things are tough, and I said a couple of months ago, there's still a lot of folks losing their homes here in Fairfield County. I also met with Mr. Adams, Mr. Haslett, and he's got a very good plan. He's willing to get out and work for these kids. I suggested somebody for him to maybe pair up with that's in my district, because kids are on the street. And I heard the school superintendent say one time, those kids that are on the street, you may not think they're going to bother you, but they could be the next ones to break in your house, because they're looking for stuff to sell for money, for food or drugs or whatever. So it behooves all of us to do that and to try to work for some recreation for the county. Mr. Brown and I have met together with Lori Schaefer, the Recreation Department Director, and also Mr. Davis Anderson, trying to get some ideas. And I'm going to meet with some other folks in my district also. One thing David and I have talked about doing, we need a genealogy department out of the museum. A lot of the seniors cannot go up the steps, so David and I have talked about the possibility of building one behind the museum for genealogy. They bring so many footprints into the museum of folks wanting to track back on their genealogy. And you say that may not be recreation, but for seniors it is. And it's very important now for a lot of folks to want to track back and to get their heritage. We've had a clean audit, I know, for the last 10 years, and I keep hearing money missing. To my knowledge, there is no money missing from this county coffer. And I just wanted to say that to you, and I just kind of feel like that we need to work together, and I'm certainly willing to talk to any of you that have any questions. If I don't know the answer, I know where this gentleman is, Mr. Pope, to help me answer it and get that information. All of us can't answer every question, but one more comment, and we're seeing and hearing a lot of slamming Mr. Ferguson right now. Mr. Ferguson was elected by this council to be the chair of this council. You've got to have order in the United States. I'm sure Senator Coleman says they have to have order in the Senate. Representative Douglas would tell you they have to have order in the House. We have to have order in our council to be able to listen to information, take in information, and to go forward. So I think David is doing a good job. It may not suit everybody, but we have to have order, and we have to have a protocol to follow. We have about this thick full of ordinances for our protocol, for our rules and our bylaws of how we direct council meetings. They've been in place, I know, for the 17 years I've been on council, and Mr. Brown, I'm sure they've been in place a lot longer than 17 years. And we go update them about every 2 years. But you go to other council meetings and you will see they basically follow Robert's Rules of Order, and they have to have that order in their meetings also to get business done. So I sincerely thank you for coming out tonight to the meetings, any of our council meetings. Our committee meetings are open if we have one on the work sessions. They're open to the public. It would behoove you to all keep coming. We'd love to have you. But let's just kind of work together and move forward for our county, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brown?
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to thank everybody for being here tonight. I think the facility accommodated everybody. I don't think anybody's being disenfranchised tonight. I'm just glad to see all the many faces. Thank y'all for coming out.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I too am happy to see so many folks come out to the meeting tonight. And with that being said, I know one of the things that we talked about going forward, maybe not the work session, but definitely I would make a motion that our next regularly scheduled meeting is held at this facility or a facility of this capacity so we can have people still continue to come out. And again, for that, when that date is scheduled for the local option sales tax, I make a motion that we be in a facility of this size so we can accommodate the people here that have taken the time to come out tonight as well.
You've heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign.
And one other thing, Mr. Chairman, I would also, which I think it would be good for the citizens to hear, is one of the things that we hear about is, I know we hear about taxes, but one of the things that we can have our administrator talk about the services that we do offer for a county of this size around EMS, fire protection, as well as police protection for a county of this size and the services that are being offered. So the citizens will know what their tax dollars are paying for and how it compares to like counties of this size, Mr. First. Thank you.
We did a very intense study about 5 years ago, Ms. Anderson?
Yes, sir.
About 5 years ago, and it's really, we talk about response time for EMS, and we talk about rankings and being in the bottom 30% and that kind of stuff. We are in the top 15% in time response for the number of miles and the number of folks that are in this county from EMS. If that EMS, if that ambulance has to be at somebody else's house servicing them, certainly it can't leave that station and come straight to your house. But if you look at the record that this county has for the attendance time, the response time, it's astronomical. It really is for a county that's this large, and for houses to be separated as much as they are. One of the other things is, Mr. Pope, one of the things keeps coming up here in unison is that the county paid for Mr. Hinley's apology letter. Could you address that for me, please?
Yes, sir, and I hope, Mr. Chairman, can everyone hear me? I hope that I'm responding to the question appropriately. I think the comment was made from a citizen about the public apology ads that were spent with county tax dollars, and that should be repaid. After I had come on board, and actually this was one of our public meetings, the staff, we actually looked at that information because it came up at a meeting one night. The bill had been paid. I actually instructed our CFO to provide that information to me. We actually sent an invoice to the former county administrator, and those funds were actually repaid to the county.
Anything else for the good of council?
Oh, I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I think I heard you say at our work session that we would figure out a way of how each district would operate individually. I'm just wondering, what is the criteria? If we're going to meet, we're going to do that. What is the criteria for that? More sick people in one district, or more affluent people in what areas? How do you determine what districts come 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Is there some kind of structure we're going to be talking about? The other question I would have to ask, however this money is provided, not a proviso, but it's once it's delegated out to the individuals, can the individuals take that money if they want to EMS, put that money on EMS and put it on it? If they want a fire station, put it on it, or they can simply give the money back to the citizens if they feel very strongly about it. Each one of us should have the will, the power, ability to do that, or is that part of the process?
Mr. Marshall, two parts to your question. The first one is the agenda of the work session is controlled by the council. So what the agenda is for selecting how we will do each district, or the 7 council members actually address all 7, that's left to the democratic process of the council. There will not be a predetermined set way of the way that's figured. What we'll do is we'll sit down that night and you guys will make a motion and we'll vote. The democratic process is whichever one gets the most votes, that's the way we'll select it. The second part of your question is how can we give that money back, or how can we not use it for recreation but for something different? I would have to refer to our legal counsel for that. I'm not really sure how that can or cannot be rectified, but Mr. Pope, if you would be so kind as to give us some clarification on that by the time we have this work session, I would appreciate it, and Mr. Marshall and the whole council will know what we can do to move from that point. I'm not really sure, Mr. Marshall, what other than what that was designated for in the bond. I really don't know what the legalities of it is.
If I may just again on this, if you say we're all going to come together and we're all going to take the vote, whoever come out 1, 2, 3, no structure, no criteria for that. If 4 minds on here want to get together and see who comes first, second, third, who comes last. I'm always last. That's why I'm concerned. I just think I'm just looking for a little bit more criteria in terms of how do we make a decision. Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. I was asking the chairman if we're going to come together as a council and decide during that meeting which districts are going to go first, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What's the criteria or structure for setting that up? Is it because of the demographics? Is it because more senior citizens in the area? Is it because more kids might be in a certain area? I mean, who gets to go first and who's deserving of that recreational center, I suppose, or recreation project first is what I was asking.
Mr. Marshall, I don't think that's a problem to solve. We all have the same amount of finance, and it won't be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's all 7 of us will follow the same criteria. Nobody will be put ahead of anybody else because we all have the same funding. So to bring a criteria to vote on, that's not going to happen, because the fact of the matter is it's got to be a democratic process, and whatever the majority decides, that's what the council has to live with. And as far as being, first to last, I don't think it's going to be a first to last. With all of us with the same amount of funding, I think that's the reason for this work session, is to get this worked out, get it off of square one, and quit arguing about it. And that's basically what I want to achieve. Mr. Vice Chair.
Finish, Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to, if we could ask our administrator to clarify maybe 2 different things that I heard tonight. One was that council has spent $26 million over the last 6 months. And the second part around transparency and how we report those things.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Council. I believe that the question, the first one that the Vice Chair mentioned, that the Council has spent $26 million in the last 6 months. The county council did pass a bond ordinance in $20-something million. However, those funds, of course, clearly have not been spent as of this time. Anytime when a county actually issues debt, of course, that has to be in a bond ordinance. And that has to be done by 3 readings and a public hearing, which it is my understanding, and going back and looking at the documentation, of course, that was actually adhered to. You have to do that in order to be consistent with the bond documents and what you have. We have, and it is public information, and we can provide to citizens if they so choose to want to see that information. When the bonds were passed, there is specific information actually in the bonds as to what the dollars can be used for. A lot of those, and just to take one issue for example, is this issue with recreation. There are dollars there that can be used for recreation, however, those dollars have not been spent as of yet. And there's a process that you have to go through in order to basically draw down those funds to be able to use those. Our finance department has to keep a detailed accounting that's based on GASB and governmental accounting standards in order to how that money is spent, because it has to be consistent with the bond covenant documents. So if anyone desires to have that information, we have that information. And of course, some of those funds have been drawn down, but not very many, because there are certain things that the council has to do by public vote in order to use and draw down those monies. The second item deals with transparency. All local governments, and I think one of the citizens was mentioning, she was mentioning the transparency items, and she mentioned one a former county that I worked with, Richland County, and of course we were probably one of the first counties to participate in the transparency. All counties have to provide detailed information, including your last year's final audit to the state treasurer's office. If you're not in compliance with that, actually your local government fund monies, or what used to be called state aid to subdivisions monies, they will actually hold those monies until those financial documents, as required by the state treasurer's office, are provided to them. Fairfield County, from my understanding and from information, the local government funds have never been withheld or threatened to be withheld, because the county is in compliance with that. Now, one of the things in addition to, and I've spoken to the finance director about it, is having additional information online, and all this information can be found online, is having information like a detailed check register. And that's information that, of course, we can put online, which we have. That is public information right now. But it can be additional information, and I think even on our website, one of the things that we need to do from an administrative standpoint is, and we can do this administratively, is make it easier to navigate on our website where that information could be more easily found. Because some of that information is there, but it's not very easy to navigate that sometimes in order to get that information. For instance, just like our minutes. Our minutes are online as well, and the citizens can go back and actually look at that information online. So as far as the state requirements regarding transparency, Fairfield County is in compliance with that. That is something, of course, that we can augment and put additional information out, but the county is not out of compliance with what the state treasurer's requirements are.
One thing before we leave tonight, in 3 subsequent meetings prior to this, the term was used that Lake Wateree had ascertained so much more money than the rest of the county had. And on 3 different occasions, I've heard the term that there was a $1 million building at Lake Wateree. At the last meeting, I asked the person that made that statement to please advise me where that building was. I'm not aware of it. I asked the representative, Ms. Robinson, she's not aware of it. So if you have made reference to that $1 million building, and you're in the building tonight, if you would, please come forward and let me know where that building is, and if the county paid for it, you would have thought one of us on this council would have remembered where it was built. I'm really not sure what you were referring to, but if you would just give me that privilege. Thank you. Anything else for good of council? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign, the ayes have it. Meeting adjourned.